brief history of the Mexican War, the logo, and the past, present, and the future. You know, the past with many other subspecies in the world. The Mexican wolf, it has pushed to extermination stage, where the wolf disappeared due to its persecution, trapping, and poison. The Mexican wolf does not disappear due to the destruction or loss of habitat. This is very important. We have habitat quality for the reintroduced Mexican wolf. So, at the present, we are working in two issues, big issues principal: the protection and the conservation. That this is the first program in Mexico that we start in late 17 and early 18. So the first step was protection. Nobody see the wolves, but the protection or the conservation concept is changing with the program. So after the protection, we move to conservation. The conservation is a dynamic stage that we need to improve the management and the gestion with the federal local people, and this is very important in order to make successful introduction of releases in Mexico. And the last etapa right now, we are enjoying with the present is the future, is the management and discussion stage. What we are doing in order to work this issue? We are working in restoring the wolf in wildlife, but not only the species. We are working in restoring ecosystems and biological communities, and with the hands, with the local people. But the local people management from the land and the fauna is very important in our goals. So, we are working to minimize the conflict human, wolf, and cattle. And we are working to develop conservation and management strategies to prevent the future extinction of the Mexican wolf. So the past, the original range of distribution in Mexico, we lost a lot of areas where it was many documents tell that the principal factor was the trapping and the poison cattails and the increases of the cattle grazing in the northern of Mexico. But for us, for cattle vision, the principal cause of extinction, not only the Mexican wolf, and another endangered species in Mexico, is the lack of environmental legislation and the absence of public policies for biological conservation and management of our natural resources, including the wildlife. Until 2000, we start with a new law, federal law, in order to make decision strategies and limitation about the use of the wildlife. So we have only 22 years in this formal framework of the conservation and management about our biodiversity. I follow some issues that the organizer wants to know you. And the other issues is the pre-European contact and population estimation. Regarding to this information about the Mexican wolf, before to arrival of the Europeans, particularly the Spaniards in Mexico, we have not or little information about the perception of the wolf, and just for Aztec imperials or another pre-Columbian cultures. skeletons of wolves adorned with a lot of jewelry were recently recovered from the Templo Mayor in the downtown of Mexico. And it's very important because in the cast of the Imperio, we know that they have eagle warriors and jaguar warriors, but nobody knows about the wolf warriors right now, recently right now. And the wolves, the wolf warrior was very important. If that suggests that these cultures know the qualities and behaviors and the presence of the Mexican wolf in these areas. So about the abundance, there are no data about the abundance of wild wolves in different regions of Mexico. We were lost species with any knowledge about the wild behavior of these species in the mountains. So for the present, so the historical issues push or support the conservation program for the federal government right now, because the wolves was important for the Mexican cultures before the Spaniards come. And the next, in the present, this program started after 1976, after they published the Endangered Species Act, where the question arises, are there still wild wolves? Yes. Where? In northern of Mexico, above all in the Chihuahua, Sonora, and Durango states. So the United States Geospatial and Wildlife create a program to capture wild wolves and start a captive breeding program. Later of this subset program, introduced in its historical areas of distributions, starting the Mexican Wolf Conservation Program we call the National Program of the Recovery Wolf. And the main objective is to restore healthy and wild population of the Mexican wolf in its original range of distribution areas. So, the next is, what are the recovery listing thresholds and recovery goals? Regarding these issues for Mexico, there are only goals for the northern region of Mexico. I mean, only Chihuahua's. It is important to incorporate the central and southern regions and other regions in this program, as well as in the southern regions of the Sierra Madre Occidental, Western Sierra Madre, in the state of Durango, which has a suitable habitat about 16,000 square kilometers of forest, not only in the best condition, but many of them in very high quality of conditions. So this condition of the quality and this 2 or 3 state, it has the forestry as the principal activity, production activity for the local people. So the forests in this area are very important, so it's more important improve management programs that conserve the biodiversity and permit their good use. So the next is what we are doing about the recovery status, the challenge and the efforts and the major threats. The recovery in wildlife is going satisfactorily, I think, in other opinions. However, more push is needed to release wolves in different areas in the western Sierra Madre to settle other metapopulation and after have a big population between the southern of the United States and northern of Mexico. The main threats are of course, conflicts with the local ranchers, but there are management routes that we are working with substance. So, and right now we have the laws in our side. So this is very good, this is how in order to improve this program. The next question you can read in the upper area. What is the difference? The main difference that I can see is that the United States is further ahead in achieving its population goals to the least the Mexican wolf. While in Mexico, we are delayed in these population goals. However, progress is being made in both countries to recover in both sides of the border. So Mexico should take advantage of the fact that it still has quality habitat with communities that can optimally recover the wolves, since this subspecies have adapted to this geographic condition that prevail in the western Sierra Madre in the southern area of distribution. Recovery efforts are made between federal government, academics, and the non-governmental organization interested in recovery endangered species, not only the Mexican wolf, there are others. So, for this question, we have some evidence that the connectivity is taking place since the individual released in the United States and Mexico are crossing the border for both sides. And in the future, when the abundance of the wolves in Mexico increase, this connectivity will be more evident process. So, this is important for me. What might be done different? I think most strategies will be done very good. But I think there are few things that will be done differently. Of course, one of them will be the release wolves in Mexico at the same time as you did in the United States. You start in 1988 and we start in 2011. So we have more than 10 years of delay. And the second is continuing to work together, Mexico and the United States, on their environment, not in this program, on their environment legislation and on issues of conservation and wildlife management, at least in the border region. We need to improve this work with the legislation and with other actors in Mexico. What might be done different? I think there are very few that will be done differently. Of course, one of them is release and is a repeat. Yes. And continuing the work together. And the last question is, I'm happy to collaborate with the public to restore the process of the nature, above all in my region, in my country. And the other big issue is discovering that a predator like a Mexican wolf is a key element in the biological communities, and its ecological role is so important in maintaining the biodiversity of the ecosystem that they live.